arm's length on all questions relating purely to myself. And lastly, when I effected my reconciliation with Armadale on the drive in front of the house, he was fool enough to be too generous to let me defend my character. When I had expressed my regret for having lost my temper and threatened Miss Milroy, and when I had accepted his assurance that my pupil had never done or meant to do me any injury, he was too magnanimous to hear a word on the subject of my private affairs. Thus I am quite unfettered by any former assertions of my own, and I may tell any story I please, with the one drawback hinted at already in the shape of a restraint. Whatever I may invent in the way of pure fiction, I must preserve the character in which I have appeared at Thorpe Ambrose; for, with the notoriety that is attached to my other name, I have no other choice but to marry Midwinter in my maiden name as Miss Gwilt. This was the consideration that took me into the lawyer's office. I felt that I must inform myself, before I saw Midwinter later in the day, of any awkward consequences that may follow the marriage of a widow if she conceals her widow's name. Knowing of no other professional person whom I could trust, I went boldly to the lawyer who had my interests in his charge at that terrible pastime in my life, which I have more reason than ever to shrink from thinking of now. He was astonished, and, as I could plainly detect, by no means pleased to see me. I had hardly opened my lips before he said he hoped I was not consulting him again, with a strong emphasis on the word, on my own account. I took the hint, and put the question I had come to ask, in the interests of that accommodating personage on such occasions, an absent friend. The lawyer evidently saw through it at once, but he was sharp enough to turn my friend to good account on his side. He said he would answer the question as a matter of courtesy toward a lady represented by myself, but he must make it a condition that this consultation of him by deputy should go no further. I accepted his terms, for I really respected the clever manner in which he contrived to keep me at arm's length without violating the laws of good breeding. In 2 minutes I heard what he had to say, mastered it in my own mind, and went out. Short as it was, the consultation told me everything I wanted to know. I risked nothing by marrying Midwinter in my maiden instead of my widow's name. The marriage is a good marriage in this way, that it can only be set aside if my husband finds out the imposture and takes proceedings to invalidate our marriage in my lifetime. That is the lawyer's answer, in the lawyer's own words. It relieves me at once, in this direction at any rate, of all apprehension about the future. The only imposture my husband will ever discover, and then only if he happens to be on the spot, is the imposture that puts me in the place, and gives me the income, of Armadale's widow, and by that time I shall have invalidated my own marriage forever. 2:30. Midwinter will be here in half an hour. I must go and ask my glass how I look. I must rouse my invention, and make up my little domestic romance. Am I feeling nervous about it? Something flutters in the place where my heart used to be. At 35, too, and after such a life as mine. 6 o'clock. He has just gone. The day for our marriage is a day determined on already. I have tried to rest and recover myself. I can't rest. I have come back to these leaves. There is much to be written in them, since Midwinter has been here, that concerns me nearly. Let me begin with what I hate most to remember, and so be the sooner done with it. Let me begin with the paltry string of falsehoods which I told him about my family troubles. What can be the secret of this man's hold on me? How is it that he alters me so that I hardly know myself again? I was like myself in the railway carriage yesterday with Armadale. It was surely frightful to be talking to the living man, through the whole of that long journey, with the knowledge in me all the while that I meant to be his widow; and yet I was only excited and fevered. Hour after hour I never shrunk once from speaking to Armadale; but the first trumpery falsehood I told Midwinter turned me cold when I saw that he believed it. I felt a dreadful hysterical choking in the throat when he entreated me not to reveal my troubles; and once I am horrified when I think of it once, when he said, 'If I could love you more dearly, I should love you more dearly now,' I was within a hair breadth of turning traitor to myself. I was on the very point of crying out to him, 'Lies! All lies! I'm a fiend in human shape! Marry the wretchedest creature that prowls the streets, and you will marry a better woman than me!' Yes! The seeing his eyes moisten, the hearing his voice tremble, while I was deceiving him, shook me in that way. I have seen handsomer men by hundreds, cleverer men by dozens. What can this man have roused in me? Is it love? I thought I had loved, never to love again. Does a woman not love when the man's hardness to her drives her to drown herself? A man drove me to that last despair in days gone by. Did all my misery at that time come from something which was not love? Have I lived to be 35, and am I only feeling now what love really is? Now, when it is too late? Ridiculous! Besides, what is the use of asking? What do I know about it? What does any woman ever know? The more we think of it, the more we deceive ourselves. I wish I had been born an animal. My beauty might have been of some use to me then; it might have got me a good master. Here is the whole page of my diary filled, and nothing written yet that is of the slightest use to me. My miserable made up story must be told over again here, while the incidents are fresh in my memory; or how am I to refer to it consistently on after occasions when I may be obliged to speak of it again? There was nothing new in what I told him. It was the commonplace rubbish of the circulating libraries: a dead father, a lost fortune, vagabond brothers, whom I dread ever seeing again, a bedridden mother dependent on my exertions. No! I can't write it down. I hate myself, I despise myself, when I remember that he believed it because I said it, that he was distressed by it because it was my story. I will face the chances of contradicting myself, I will risk discovery and ruin, anything rather than dwell on that contemptible deception of him a moment longer. My lies came to an end at last; and then he talked to me of himself and of his prospects. Oh, what a relief it was to turn to that at the time! What a relief it is to come to it now! He has accepted the offer about which he wrote to me at Thorpe Ambrose, and he is now engaged as occasional foreign correspondent to the new newspaper. His first destination is Naples. I wish it had been some other place, for I have certain past associations with Naples which I am not at all anxious to renew. It has been arranged that he is to leave England not later than the 11th of next month. By that time, therefore, I, who am to go with him, must go with him as his wife. There is not the slightest difficulty about the marriage. All this part of it is so easy that I begin to dread an accident. The proposal to keep the thing strictly private, which it might have embarrassed me to make, comes from Midwinter. Marrying me in his own name, the name that he has kept concealed from every living creature but myself and Mr. Brock, it is his interest that not a soul who knows him should be present at the ceremony, his friend Armadale least of all. He has been a week in London already. When another week has passed, he proposes to get the license, and to be married in the church belonging to the parish in which the hotel is situated. These are the only necessary formalities. I had but to say yes, he told me, and to feel no further anxiety about the future. I said yes with such a devouring anxiety about the future that I was afraid he would see it. What minutes the next few minutes were, when he whispered delicious words to me, while I hid my face on his breast! I recovered myself first, and led him back to the side.